NCAA basketball totals for Tuesday, November 11th. We were 3-1 yesterday. Today we're going to look at 4 games on the card. We're 8-7 on the year. Long ways to go all the way till March. But let's go ahead and let's start breaking these down. 4 games on the card again. First, we're going to start with Oregon and Baylor. Odds makers have this total a little bit high, I think, 154.5. I'm going to go under the total in this matchup. Dana Altman, Oregon, they're absolutely loaded this year. They beat Army 91-77, and that was pretty fast tempo. Army got up 66 attempts. Oregon was more efficient. They got up 60 and shot 45% for the field. Now, last year they played to a total closer to 140. Of course, it's different personnel. Oregon's got a lot of guys back. But Baylor and Scott Drew, they're no joke. I think they can come in and I think the way the odds makers have set it up, at least, you look at the line, it's pretty tight. This game is going to be a really hard fought. I think there's going to be a lot of stops from both sides, enough to stay under this 154.5. They might shoot lights out, but I don't anticipate that. Now, Baylor beat Oral Roberts to start the year 76-61. Of course, Oregon, completely different monster. But they allowed Oral Roberts to shoot just 41.4% from the field, just get up 58 attempts. Baylor only got up 54 attempts. Now, Baylor in years past, they were really a fast tempo team, but it seems the last few years, Scott Drew has kind of put more emphasis on defense. You start breaking down their scores over the last couple years. There's just a difference as far as their tempo. They did shoot 44% from the field, pretty decent. But it seems they're going just a bit slow to get over this 154.5. Now, both these teams, I think, are going to have to step up and play some defense, of course, to get under this total. But both teams and both coaches are good enough to go ahead and help us stay. They're good. Excuse me. What I want to say is they're both very good coaches overall. They coach defense. We're going to see a lot of man-to-man. I think they match up well, and we're going to stay under the total. That's what I really wanted to say. Okay. Next one up we got is Michigan State and Kentucky. We're looking at 153.5 set by oddsmaker. I'm going to go over the total on this one. Now, in years past, it's been Kentucky that has been the one-and-done school. Freshmen come in and they go. Michigan State, though, they got a really good recruiting class. Tough loss against Arizona, but let's look at that Arizona game. The tempo was okay. Michigan State, they shot 43% from the field. They got up just 58 attempts, but they shot 25 from distance. That's a lot. That's showing they're spreading the floor and getting some shots up. Similar, they were a lot faster last year than they've been in years past, and I think Tom Izzo knows he's got some horses to go ahead and run. I think they're going to run tonight. Now, shots got to drop, but I think they're going to be able to score against Kentucky. Kentucky, very efficient. They're shooting almost 60% on their two-point shots. Of course, they haven't really played anyone. They just got done thumping Canisius. But they are allowing, in their 2 games in which they absolutely dominated, they are allowing 54% on their opponent's two-point shooting. So I think Michigan State's going to be able to score. Also, we have a 2 group of really young guys. They probably don't know, at least scheme-wise, defensively, where they need to be at all times. And these teams will get better on the defensive side of the ball. That's always the last thing to come in basketball. They can score. And I don't think the defense is going to be there tonight. That's my opinion. They both might just shoot, and everything hits the rim. So I don't know about that, but I like the tempo. I think we're going to get there with the tempo. Both teams have horses. I think they're going to be able to score. I'm going to go over 153.5. Kentucky, looking at them as the season progresses, gosh, they're really going to be tough. I've been watching them pretty closely these first 2 games. They start out really slow, and then they just go. So if this game starts out slow, don't sweat it. I really think they're going to get there in the end. I think probably a really big second half. All right, let's go ahead and let's get to the next one. We got Kansas and Duke. 167.5. That is a huge number. I'm going to go under the total. Duke, of course, is not at full strength. They got 3. Their 3 star freshmen are still not available for them. Now, Kansas just took on Indiana, and Indiana is a super fast team. Tom Crean, he's always been really fast with tempo. And they went with them, and they went to overtime, and they lost. I think they're going to hunker things down a little bit on the defensive end, enough to stay under this 167.5. That's a lot of points. Now, although they did allow tempo versus Indiana, they only allowed the Hoosiers to shoot 43.7%. That's good. That's some pretty good defense. Duke, in their first 2 games, on average, they're allowing just 63.5 attempts. That's fast, but that's not super fast. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take under this total. I think we're going to see it's going to get close, though. They're going to score. These teams, they're both so loaded. They're going to be able to score. but I think it's going to end up closer to around 160 than that 167.5. Watch where that number goes. Be sure to check SBR and see where that number goes. Okay, and the last one we got is Stanford versus Northridge. Now, we had the over with Northridge and UCLA. Jared Haas takes over from UAB for Stanford, and UAB's always been, as far as like adjusted tempo and stuff, they're pretty decent, pretty quick. Now they beat Harvard to open the year, but when we look at the numbers, Stanford they got one shot up from distance. They went 1 for 6 from 3, and they allowed Stanford to just 4 3-pointers. So not a lot going on from distance. As well, Stanford only got up 54. Now the final score is 80-70. They scored quite a bit, but Stanford only got up 54 attempts. They allowed, they got up 54 attempts. And yeah, they allowed 59 attempts, and they allowed Stanford to shoot just 37.3%. Now Northridge comes in, really fast tempo team, but we look defensively, at least they held UCLA to just 5 3-pointers. UCLA was 5 for 16 from distance. That's not going to be an issue tonight because Stanford can't shoot the 3, and that was something they wanted to address. If you look at any news about Stanford, that's something that they wanted to address coming into this season, but it doesn't look like they're going to get there this year at least. They got some talent, but they're picked more in the middle of the Pac-12 for this season. I just don't see it getting over that 164. I think this might be where we know that Stanford scored 80 and Northridge scored a ton against UCLA, but this is going to have to be a track meet. Stanford's just coming back from China. I don't see them getting over that 164. So I'm going to stay under that, and that gives us 3 unders and 1 over on the day. So I bounced around just a little bit. I apologize for that, but there's just so much information to gather to go ahead and make some good plays, and there's so many college games. So again, like I mentioned last video, and I hate to bore you with this, but in a couple weeks it'll smooth out, and we'll be able to have a lot better flow with these videos as I bounce around with these statistics. But here is what we got. Finally, recap on the day. Oregon Baylor under the 154.5. Michigan State Kentucky over 153.5. Kansas Duke under 167.5, and Northridge Stanford under 164. Those are my NCAA college total picks on the day, and I wish you luck on your picks today.